Alright, y'all need to understand that the reason why the Strait being closed for so long means an economic collapse, it's not because the Strait's the most important thing in the world, even though it kinda is.
One conspiracy I have that I would love for somebody to prove me wrong is that I really believe that going to the grocery store has become just as expensive as eating out every single night.
The economy is so bad right now. Like, I genuinely have been struggling to find the words.
You know it's real bad when they're trying to sell that fake money being spent is a good thing.
I'm announcing today that under my leadership, the United States will commit to the ambitious goal of slashing energy and electricity prices by half at least within 12 months, at a maximum 18 months. And if it doesn't work out, you'll say, oh, well, I voted for him. I still got him down a lot. And every single thing that I promised, I produced. You will never have had energy so low as you will under a certain gentleman known as Donald J. Trump. How good would that be for a thing called inflation? How good will that be?
How good would that be for a thing called inflation? Goddamn, Donald, you really have a way of stringing words together, don't you? And I gotta say, Donald, it's pretty impressive because you told us that gas prices would drive inflation. Now, barely a year after inauguration, you've proven this so unequivocally that another Biden record has fallen. It's not just the breaking news out today that shows that at 3.8%, the annual rate of inflation is at its highest point since early 2023. And it's not that it took Donald Trump just 1 month to break Joe Biden's 48-month job creation record. It's another number that was far more resilient, because in order to break this record, you have to both break the job market and spike inflation. For most presidents, that's a real struggle because when the job market softens, it usually reduces demand, which in turn reduces pressure on inflation. We have to remember Donald Trump is no ordinary president. See, after inflation originally spiked due to supply chain disruptions and pandemic stimulus spending, both of which being a product of Donald Trump's too little too late 2020 dumpster fire pandemic economy, the Biden economy generated millions of jobs over 2 full years before the unemployment rate got low enough to put upward pressure on the job market. And at that point, which was April of 2023, even though inflation was still unacceptably high, wage growth was even higher. In other words, under the Biden economy, wages weren't just growing fast enough to keep up with inflation, but we were actually getting ahead. Joe Biden's economy maintained that streak for 2 full years. But now, after barely 1 year of Donald Trump's economy, he broke that streak too. And inflation is once again rising faster than our paychecks. But here's why this time is different, and worse. Inflation in 2021 and 2022 was driven by an anomaly, because the underlying Biden economy was still strong. But this time, it's the opposite. This is good old-fashioned 1970s style core inflation, which actually tracks because Donald Trump peaked in the 70s. This era of inflation is driven by Donald Trump's tariffs, Donald Trump's choice to attack the one country that maybe has more control over the oil market than any other country in the world, and Donald Trump's inability to understand the mechanics of a global energy market. Now, despite promising that crowd in Nashville, North Carolina, less than 2 years ago, the Trump administration would cut energy prices in half, gas prices are almost $5 a gallon nationwide, and the diesel used by 75% of the trucks that deliver the groceries you need to survive has reached $7 a gallon on the West Coast. And it's all because Trump voters couldn't stomach the idea of a woman.
Is it just me? Are the people complaining about gas prices and food costs and interest rate on homes? They don't own a home, they don't have a car, and they don't pay for their own food. They're on EBT. Am I wrong?
Yes, you're wrong. And do you know how I know? Because 81% of Americans say that inflation is a problem they're worried about, and foreclosures are hitting record high levels. And that means that most Americans, including those who own homes and are not on food assistance programs, are terrified about the state of the economy. You see, what you try to do is make up a reality that doesn't exist to make a point that is not there. And you decided to do that by offending others. You picked on people who don't own a home because they can afford it. You picked on people who struggle with food insecurity. Without saying it, you said that economically disadvantaged people don't deserve a voice. They don't have a right to complain. Oh, and by the way, those are the very people who are most affected by the dumpster fire that is the current Trump economy. People who have to make do on minimum wage salaries but are dealing with $4 a gallon gas. People who need to keep hunger at bay through food assistance programs when food is 30% more expensive, but their SNAP benefits have not kept up with it, and so they are feeding their family with 30% less food. You see, you may think you had something there with your video, but you only prove that you live in a world that you made up so you can feel better about the fact that you're leaving people out in the cold to fend for themselves, and that you're willing to make fun of the less fortunate as long as you are okay. And don't get me wrong, I'm not surprised that is your position, considering I heard what you had to say. I'm just surprised that you decided to make a video to advertise your opinion.
I'm not gonna lie, let's talk about these damn gas prices. About $4.50 is the cheapest? Jersey City well, not Jersey City, Jersey in general used to have the cheapest gas. In New Jersey, the gas is what, $4.50? What the hell is going on? This shit getting ridiculous now. This type of topic is what we need to be talking about, going crazy on. That's why they doing things under our noses, because we don't be knowing what's going on. We over here worrying about what Boo Boo and Say talking about on live. I'm down with it too, though. I do that too, but y'all, we shouldn't be paying that much for no damn gas now. At this point, I'm about to just turn into AI and fly everywhere I need to be. It's crazy.
The economy is so bad right now. Like, I genuinely have been struggling to find the words to kind of describe like what I'm seeing. And I think anyone else who works in the helping profession, who's people facing, and you work with like a wide range of people, you can really see that it's hitting everyone from pretty much every background. It's just really, really bad. I know people who have been unemployed for well over a year. I know people who've been unemployed going on a year. It's really bad. And I've seen people like making jokes and stuff about Spirit Airlines shutting down. But the reality is that's like, it says 17,000 because Spirit has 17,000 employees. But I saw someone else saying like they actually work for a printing company and their client is Spirit Airlines. So like this is going to ripple out. I'm going to say conservatively that it's going to be at least 20K people in the job market, and already struggling job market. There's no growth in the job market, and it's just so bad. I don't know. And I really hate situations where I don't have answers, because it's just like really, really bad. But it's going to get worse, and that's the scarier part about it too. The fact that we live in a world where racism is that deep to some people, like they hate black people, brown people so bad that they kind of like led us into this mess, is so ridiculous to me. I'm so sorry. That does not escape my mind. And the fact that we have politicians that are so money hungry that they just do not represent the people, all of it is just, it's so hard to wrap your mind around, because it's just getting worse and worse. So many people are struggling to make it from week to week. I know so many people who are facing or dealing with eviction right now. It's so horrible. And there are so many people who don't have safety nets. There are people who don't have a family they can go stay with. There's so many people who, like, it's just really, really bad. But hey, at least y'all got rid of the DEI, I guess.
I need people to understand that the economy is so bad, we aren't even able to envision a negative future for ourselves, one that we're going to struggle and suffer, one that we're like, okay, this is going to be really hard, but maybe we'll make it out on the other side, and like, I can envision how hard this is going to be and what I'm going to have to do. No, we are at a point where we cannot even envision a future for ourselves, and that is far more dangerous for your mental and emotional health than anything else. It is a higher indicator for suicidal ideation and completion of suicide to not be able to imagine a future for yourself, as opposed to imagine a future that is negative. Really, the most important part of all of this is that the younger generations are unable right now to imagine any sort of future for themselves at all. Like, maybe before they were able to imagine a future that was pretty shitty, and they're like, damn, that's gonna suck, that's gonna be hard, but I can at least imagine it and like try to prepare myself and blah blah blah. But no, at this point, young people are just like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to exist tomorrow, later today. I don't know if we're going to be at a war. I don't know, like, if I'm even going to be able to afford gas. It is absolutely catastrophic all around them, just constantly. How the fuck are you supposed to imagine a future for yourself when you can't even depend on the future that is immediately in front of you being tonight? Young people, Gen Z, like, they genuinely don't have any hope, and you know what? I don't blame them. Why would they? What around them? What about their experience has shown them that they can actually, like, count on any of the systems that they were told that they should count on and will actually help them, like, live and find success and purpose in life? No, they've watched it crumble around them, and then they've watched the people like millennials, myself, and then generations older than me just try and try and try and try on this hamster wheel and still fail. We still are not getting the success or whatever the fuck was promised us, despite how hard we're working, and the younger generations see that, and they don't know what the hell is going to happen next for them. Because genuinely, who does? Who does? Until economically, socially, like whatever, however the fuck you want to categorize this, until we get to a point where young people can actually imagine a future for themselves, because, I don't know, like, the world will maybe exist. Like, we haven't even touched on the environment. Oh my god. Until they can actually imagine some sort of future for themselves, I don't know where we go from here. I don't, because hope will be lost. If you can't imagine anything, nothing can happen. So this is me, I guess, raising the big ass red flag. This is tiny, but like, imagine it a lot bigger than this, because our young people cannot imagine a future for themselves. Young people cannot imagine a future for themselves, even if it's shitty. They can't imagine anything, and that's really fucking bad, guys.
One conspiracy I have that I would love for somebody to prove me wrong is that I really believe that going to the grocery store has become just as expensive as eating out every single night. Because that used to be the message. Oh, you gotta save money, you gotta go to the grocery store. Have you been to the grocery store? As soon as you walk in there, you've spent $87. There is no savings to be had. And I really feel like they've designed it this way. They've intentionally designed it so that there's no cheap option. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, that sounds conspiratorial, Mike. Well, who's they? Who's they? I don't know. Whatever faceless demons run this society, I have no clue who is they. But what I do know is that it's pretty much the same when you think about it. If you can spend $40 in a night getting a meal for you and your whatever, your family or your loved one, that's basically the same as going to the store, getting just the ingredients alone are going to be $40, and then all the groceries, you're walking out of there spending $100 for basically nothing, versus just putting a little thing into your little thing and you order something. And I know what people are going to say, oh, you got to be disciplined, you got a meal plan. Yes, but at the same time, if you apply that same discipline to like finding discounts online on your little apps, you can find deals the same way that you can find deals in the grocery store. And then you factor in that if you go to the grocery store, you then also have to put in all the effort of actually making the food. And who the hell wants to do that? Probably a lot of people, but not me. I'd rather just pay a little person to just show up on their little bike and give me the food. And I know that this is probably what the tech oligarchs want, but what are you going to do?
U.S. home sellers are currently outnumbering buyers by 630,000. Which basically means that the housing market is probably about to crash. And rightfully so. Because realistically, it was the baby boomer generation that was hoarding all of this wealth and quite literally making it impossible for the younger generations to then move up in the world and literally live life how it was given to us and how we were basically told that life was supposed to go. Now, I'm not saying the system is perfect and that the system is working at all, but the housing market is most likely going to crash, in my opinion, because for there to be 630,000 more people that are selling homes than there are people actively looking to buy homes just shows me that this whole housing market is about to crash. It's about to crash and crumble and collapse. And honestly, I feel like the older generations are the ones to blame for this situation happening. Absolutely. And it's the same older generations that will call the younger generations lazy and say that we don't want to work and all of these other things, when it's like realistically, like a livable wage is not a livable wage anymore. Maybe it was in the past at some point, but that's not the case in today's times. And the minimum wage hasn't raised in 20 years, but yet inflation is at an all-time high. And it only continues to go up on top of all the other things that are just happening in the world currently. Like, it's actually ridiculous. And so those numbers coming out is basically just showing me that the housing market is about to collapse. Like, I don't know when that will be exactly, but that's crazy for there to be that many more people who are selling their homes than people who are actively looking to buy homes at all. And it's like, for obvious reasons, like the economy is just shitty. Like, horrible. So the housing market is going to crash because of that. And honestly, the older generations are the ones who are hoarding the wealth and, buying up all of these buildings and all of these, houses to then rent out. But then the prices are so astronomically high because they're just trying to make more money. And that's what it's always been about. So now we're at the point where that's collapsing and crumbling, along with other things in the world as well. But the housing market, I feel like she's about to be done, for real.
Oh, so this is what peak delusion looks like.
We've had the best presidency, the best first year of any president.
Donald Trump claims that he's had the best first year of any president ever, but all that really means is that he's pleased with how much he's enriched himself. Gas prices are over $4.50 a gallon. People are pissed off about the $1 billion in taxpayer funds that he wants for this stupid ballroom, and inflation just hit 3.8% in April, the highest amount in 3 years.
What the My honest reaction was, what the Oh my God, it's scary to fill up the tank. I was going to top off as we stopped here for the girls to use the restroom, and at $5.49, I'm not topping off for that.
It's horrible. No one should be paying them type of prices.
Donald Trump's disapproval rating on the handling of the economy is now at 70%, a devastating number, but they still want you to think that this is just a lot of change for us to accept.
That President Trump has sort of taken every problem on earth and got 100% at fixing it, and I think that can be stressful for people to see so much change going on.
Also, don't forget, we're approaching that time where a lot of the really nasty stuff that was buried in that big, beautiful bill is about to start hitting rural America as well.
Alright, y'all need to understand that the reason why the strait being closed for so long means an economic collapse, it's not because the strait's the most important thing in the world, though it kinda is, but it's because it triggers all the other dominoes to fall. The economy has been like a house of cards it's been building for like the past 5-10 years even. But the whole thing's been real shaky, and the only reason that it's still even standing is because it's propped up by AI spending. Before the war, for years, there's been an inflation problem, keeping the Fed stuck. The consumer's been weak and getting weaker with record high credit card debt. There's a massive private credit bubble, and obviously the insane national debt. Everybody knows about that. And if you ask the majority of people besides boomers and their spoiled kids, everyone will say, guys, we've been in a recession for years now. I don't know what anyone's talking about. But we've been propped up by Mag 7 spending. That's the whole thing. And that's why the strait is so significant. Because not only does it pop the AI bubble, which I've already broken down, but it also hits every single one of the other ones. So it's not just like taking one card out of the house of cards. No, you're taking a baseball bat to the entire thing. All of these were problems and bubbles before the war, but now with the strait being closed for this long and all the factories being destroyed, all of it gets triggered, all of it gets hit. This is why it's so important. It's not just the strait. Everyone who tries to make an excuse for Trump, they always just like, oh, you know, we make our own this, we make our own that. No, that's not how it works. Everything's traded on a global market, so if the prices are going up over there, it's going up over here too. So that, of course, leads to the first problem, the inflation problem. Inflation before the war was already a problem. It was already high and already not moving, which means the Fed could not cut rates. And these rates weren't even high to begin with, and people were already desperate for the Fed to start cutting because their businesses were going under. But now the Fed literally cannot do anything. Because what do you think all this supply chain disruption does? It's a forced inflation. Inflation is the rising of prices, and that's what the disruption does. So the Fed's either going to hold or hike, you get me? Which means these businesses that have already been feeling like it's been a recession, they're screwed, right? They're going down. So that's one domino right there, but the other one is the consumer. The inflation directly hits the consumer. The consumer that's already weak, okay, outside of the middle class garbage, none of them. We're talking about like 40% of the economy, the average consumer. You know what they're on? They're on credit cards. They're swiping. They're maxed out on credit cards. You see the record high credit card numbers? That doesn't even paint the real picture. It's so much worse than people think because what they're actually doing these days, they're using BNPL, buy now, pay later. They're using this to pay off the card and to pay for groceries and living expenses. They were already using credit cards wrong and using that as a band-aid for their life. And then they started using BNPL as another band-aid on top of that. When all of that pops, they're screwed, they can't spend. But not only that, they take down all the financials that were holding them up, all the private credit that's been holding them up. See what I mean? It's all tied together. The businesses fall, the consumers fall, and then the private credit falls. But then the private credit was also holding these two guys up at the same time. So not only is it like, you know, a house of cards, one after another, but they're all directly being hit at the same time. And you gotta understand, the consumers and the average businesses and the private credit, this is the majority of the economy. And I know AI spends a lot, but the majority of the economy is these guys. The consumer by itself is 2/3. And all of them, sledgehammer, you get me? But then the one thing that was holding up the economy for the past couple of years, the AI spending from the Mag 7. They can't do that anymore. This is what I've been saying. They can't do that anymore. With the helium factories destroyed, with the energy costs rising, all of their original businesses getting margin crunched as well, they can't spend in the same way. They're on their last round of spending. Right, I've already showed you Amazon's cash flow is on the floor. Everybody else is the same. They're all cooked. They're all cooked at the same time that AI can only paint pretty pictures. That's all it does right now. There's no agentic, there's no AGI. Like, that's where the money is. All it does is paint pictures. They've spent $700 billion to paint pictures. This is what I'm talking about here. People are just not getting this. And this is why I focus on the AI bubble so much. I don't care about the stock market. What I care about is that this is the one thing that's been holding up the entire economy. The entire economy is already weak. It's on the floor. It's in recession. They're still getting hit either way, right? So that's about to be a depression. But then the one thing that's been holding it up, this is getting smashed too. All right? This is getting smashed. And they've already spent all of their money. They've spent all of their money on this. On pretty pictures. That's all it is. But then that's just the regular economy. The other huge thing, it's a big problem, is the national debt. The national debt has never been a problem. You know, 40 trillion, whatever the number is, keeps going higher every year. But it's never been a problem because we're the reserve currency. We're the petrodollar, right? Everybody uses us to transact. What do you think is happening now? It's screwed. They're using the Chinese currency now. And then the only argument for us as the reserve currency was that we're more trustworthy than like BRICS or someone like that. Now? No, we're not. We're not trustworthy at all. Nobody trusts us after what we're pulling right now. If you put us on a scale against BRICS, it's about the same. At this point, it's about the same. And if the petrodollar collapses and then we're no longer the reserve currency, we're going to have to face that $40-50 trillion debt. We're going to have to actually face it. But when we actually have to face this, do you know what that means? That's in taxes. That's in cutting to all government spending. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. People are downplaying it right now. You know, everyone's yelling fear-mongering. No, they're downplaying it for you so you don't start crying, okay? It is so much worse. It is so much worse than people are making it out to be. And the thing is, I'm still missing a few things here. There's a few other cards that I don't have space, I don't have the time to spell out for you. But the economy is fried, okay? It is fried. Call it fear-mongering, call it whatever you want. I don't care because I understand that you don't understand. And that's why I speak to anyone else, you know, the people who don't have the blinders on and who will listen and who will just, you know, plant a garden, all right? Prepare yourself for rough times is an understatement as well. It's not rough times. It's a very rough time, dude. And I don't mean to laugh. It's not funny at all. It's freaking terrible. But I laugh because nobody gets it. Like, I mean, what? How? I don't understand how.
You know, it's real bad when they're trying to sell that fake money being spent is a good thing.
I had the head of one of the big 5 banks in my office yesterday going through the credit card data, and just as Secretary Bessent said, credit card spending is through the roof. They're spending more on gasoline, but they're spending more on everything else too.
And you want to know what's crazy? At the end of 2025, we actually had more credit card debt than we've ever had before the war in Iran started, before gas prices spiked.
Average credit card debt in the U.S. is at an historic high. According to the most recent data from the Fed, at the end of 2025, it was $1.28 trillion.
So while Kevin Hassett and the rest of this regime celebrate the fact that our consumer debt is piling up at record rates, this is what actual Americans sound like.
I put up my tank $85. That's ridiculous.
We spend like 1/3 of a check just on gas.
Look at that right there. 627.74.
Never forget, the Republican Party wants you poor because they can.
Gas is not going down anytime soon. Even if the Strait of Hormuz were to open today, everybody, gas is not finna go down anytime soon. We are at a point where the world is missing 500 million barrels of oil. From the time that this strait's been closed, 500 million barrels of oil should have transcended into the world by now. And they have not, because the strait has been closed and the Gulf states cannot get oil/energy to anybody. Why? It's going to take 6 months to clear the mines in the Strait of Hormuz. You're probably like, oh, but they don't have to detonate the mines. Da, 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 da. That's not how mines work. And then number two, insurance carrier, or they're not gonna be like, yeah, you can go through the strait. Like, we believe you. Like, they're not gonna, no. They're gonna be like, take everything out before we send all of the big stuff in. Another thing, we have to restore production. The world is missing out on barrels. The richest countries are going to get their barrels first, and then the poor countries are going to get their barrels. And then also, we have to rebuild facilities. We have to rehire workers. We have to find the workers. They're probably displaced due to the conflict that is happening, due to the violence. We also have to rebuild trust with companies, workers, everybody in the area. That's going to take months, years to fix. I'm assuming we all know about the fertilizer cliff. What's happening is by November, we're going to really feel that because the harvest is going to be small pickings due to lack of fertilizer. And yeah, that's really going to be the issue. So let's talk about budget airlines, right? So Spirit, Frontier, Ryanair, Allegiant, whatever boo-boo the food airplane you want to call, I don't care, are the airlines that protect the consumers. They stand in the way of corporate giants price gouging the absolute crap out of flights and also treating us like crap. And now, if you remember, during COVID, flights were really cheap to Florida. They were like $50 if you wanted to fly Spirit. Like, in the next 3 years, 4 years, even now, flights to Florida around the airlines are super cheap due to Spirit not having to raise their prices as much to also gain the profit that they needed. I'm assuming. That's an assumption, by the way. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that because of jet fuel raising up to 105%, budget airlines are taking the brunt of this. So Frontier, Spirit, Allegiant, Ryanair, they don't have as much capital and as much cash on hand as the big corporate giants or credit, right? So they operate off of like spot prices. A lot of these budget airlines buy spot price fuel. And what the bigger airlines are doing, they're selling fuel at insane prices because they bought them 15 years ago at like $65 a barrel or some shit. And what the plan is, it's the Rockefeller effect. I talked about this on my Substack. Please go check out my Substack. And the Rockefeller effect is very sneaky. It is very much, in my opinion, don't let mom and pop grow. So mom and pop keep their prices at a very affordable level. And I don't like that because I can't raise my prices too high because nobody will shop here. I have to keep them at a range or an average around mom and pop because mom and pop will become too popular. So because mom and pop are actually becoming too popular and I refuse to lower my prices anymore, I'm going to sabotage mom and pop. I'm going to do something such as blow up the grocery store or set a fire and then charge them buku's amount for the damages or something. Like they have to come to me to come get it or something like that. And whilst they're drowning, I'm going to buy their business. So what does that mean? So whilst Spirit, Frontier, or Ryanair could be possibly drowning and buying fuel and paying a lot in their profits to buy fuel to even keep operating at some such and to give their customers what they promised them, because honestly, like that's a lot of money to refund. What could happen is that like the other people like American Airlines or like United or Delta could be like, let's merge. You know what merge means? Merge means I'm going to buy all your airplanes. I'm going to paint them. You're going to be my company. And then I'm going to take all your gates. And then there's nobody to protect us from the big corporate giants when it comes to airline prices. And this will be my last segment because I got a steak waiting for me, y'all. And it's too funny because like China is putting the money down and just buying fuel at whatever price. They're buying that shit and they're stockpiling it. So when the world needs rescuing, they come in as the hero. And the funny thing is, the U.S. is sitting there like, yeah, the blockade's good. Keg Seth came on he was like, we bombed them. Like, the fuck? Like, they got bombed. Like, we did, the ships is over there. Like, we doing our shit for real. Like, no, dummy, you're not doing anything. Because while you're sitting there looking stupid, biting your nails with no fucking oil, no way to lower prices, thinking about cutting all of the Medicaid and all of the WIC for all these individuals and cutting the safety nets of Americans, China is stockpiling. Stockpiling oil. While Iran is touring around the world. While you are making everyone look at you like an asshole. Because Iran said just open the strait. We don't have to talk about nuclear negotiations. Just open it. So like the world doesn't have to go hungry. And Keg Seth and Trump said no. So we look like assholes. Because we are assholes. Because this is a white supremacist country. And we are assholes. Okay? Not me though. Like, I'm black. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's really it. Like, China's about to play hero. The U.S. is sitting there looking stupid. And Iran is touring the world trying to make friends. Making friends, actually. Because their friends they're making are about to become our enemies. Because we're the reason they don't have anything. We're the reason they don't have oil. We're the reason they don't have food. We're the reason they don't have water. We're the reason why nothing's getting there. We're the reason why medicine's not getting there. So yeah, that's the issue, everybody. Have a great night. Maybe morning. I don't